Hello and welcome to Getting Your Money's Worth, the show that focuses on value. I'm Judith West, and our guest today is Stephen Chinlund, Episcopalian priest and author of Prison's Transformations, The System, the People Inside, and Me. Okay, thanks for being on the show. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you.
I'm going to call you Steve. Is that okay?
Sure.
Or I have to call you Reverend or Doctor?
No,
Okay.
Steve
good.
is great.
Steve is good. Okay. We like that. We're on first name basis here. So this show is called Getting Your Money's Worth, and let me ask you something. It costs how much does it cost per inmate in the New York State prison system?
Well, roughly $30,000
Annually.
annually.
Annually, okay. It costs more to put a kid in prison than it does to educate him properly.
If it were straight across, yeah.
If it were dollar for dollar.
Right.
Do taxpayers get their money's worth out of prisons?
No, and it's very uneven state to state. California spends over $10 billion and their prisons are overflowing. New York spends just over 2 instead of 10, and we're closing prisons.
Yes.
And doing it because of good management, good parole, and so on. So New Yorkers get more than Californians get by way of money's worth, but we could get a lot more for our money than we're getting.
Okay, and I'm going to assume that that's what you meant by the word transformations.
I meant that the system has changed in the 48 years I've been involved with it, and certainly the people inside have changed, and I tell a lot of those stories. And I have changed, and I give my work in prison and the focus it has had a lot of credit for the changes.
You dispel the myth that there's like a belief system that there are a lot of people in prison that ought not to be there, and you take that concept to task a little bit with some, I thought, pretty startling numbers. I believe you said something like close to 80% of folks that are in prisons did indeed commit a violent crime.
Not a violent crime, but they did commit the crime of which they are convicted.
Is it violent? Are they violent crimes?
Well,
are they petty crimes?
Many are regarded as petty crimes, but many are violent crimes, and certainly, 80%. In a typical group that I run inside, or my network program runs inside, probably half of the men or women who are in the group have committed violent crimes.
Okay, so tell us about, give in a brief synopsis, what made you decide to get involved with the prison system in the first place? Is it because you were a member of the clergy?
When I was on the Lower East Side in a parish, there were a lot of women, wonderful women, and when I asked about their men, it turned out that many of them were in prison. So many of them, on Rikers Island on drug charges. So I decided I'd go visit them, took a list, and before I even got to the place where I could visit them, a long line of them went by the window of the bus. And I looked at them face after face after face, and I said, these guys are all right. They look like regular people. And then as I got to know the husbands and brothers and sons of the people in the parish, that belief was confirmed, and it's been only more and more confirmed in the 48 years I have worked inside.
So regular folks commit crimes and go to prison?
Right.
Okay.
That can happen. I mean, there certainly are some who are not what you would call regular folks, who are pretty deeply troubled people. We have moved our mental health system into prison. It's a whole topic in itself.
It's another whole show. Right, exactly. So there are a lot of disparate families out there, though, and kids growing up without fathers and or mothers, so mostly fathers, and women that are carrying the burdens because their regular guys got in trouble. What do you do to help fix that problem?
Well, that's a complicated question.
Okay,
but basically,
so
I would say the short answer is
right.
we help them appreciate themselves.
How do you do that?
Typically, they are people who are very down on themselves. And even if you took everybody in this studio here today and said, Say something you feel proud about having done, glad that you did in the
Well, I'm happy to have you as
past
a
few
guest.
days. Well, I'm happy to be here.
Right.
But it's very hard to say, I'm a good father because I could see my daughter was upset and I took her aside and after dinner we had a private talk. It's just
So are
difficult
you
to do.
trying to bolster these people up and improve their self-image?
Right, only by real stuff. They have to give examples of actual things.
So that's, you ask them to tell what are you proud of? What are you,
Yeah.
But I'm still so you start. That's how you start the relationship or the rebirth
And continue.
and the continue. And how do you get from what are you proud of to why did you commit this crime? I'm sure there are a lot of steps in between. But again, give us a broad brush overview.
Well, basically, we don't really say, why did you commit the crime? Because that's a very tough question. You can say what happened on the day of the crime and what seemed to be the motives for committing the crime. But it's very hard to be clear about exactly why. Now, most of the reason is I was angry as I could be. And I was very despairing about my life. I thought, there's no place for me in this world. I need money, and so I'm going to get the money. And
Are most of these crimes having to do with money?
Probably. I think some are what might be called crimes of passion, not just finding your wife in bed with another man, but just kind of coming to the end of your rope where you're just so frustrated that you don't know what to do, and heaven help you, if there's a weapon available, then you might shoot somebody.
So what's your success rate, Steve? Do you have a good success rate?
We've had a wonderful success rate. Network program has an 11% success rate, as against 33 or 34 statewide and 60-some nationwide. So we're very happy about that.
You mean 11% have not returned to prison?
No,
90%.
90% have not.
Have not. Oh, okay. Have not returned to prison.
Have not returned to prison.
So your rate of successful entry back into society is very strong.
Right.
Very strong.
We're very happy about it.
I mean, it's hard to ask this question because there's such variations of categories of criminals and how long they've been. But what's the average stay in prison of the person that you help, and how long does it take you to get them to this successful rebirth into society?
Well, the average for a felony inmate is 3 years, a little less. But the people we work with typically are there quite a lot longer than that, and many are serving 25 to life sentences. So part of what I say in the book is how surprising it is that it takes many, including very intelligent men and women, a long time, years, 6 years, 8 years, 9 years, to realize I'm not getting out of here. People serving 20, 25-year sentences. So having that sink in and then having them accept it and not literally or figuratively beat their heads against the stone wall means that they are beginning to learn to accept a reality that they cannot easily change.
Yeah. We are faced now in the 21st century with a society that has big gaps between the haves and the have-nots. Mm-hmm. What can society do to prevent? I mean, truthfully, if we wanted to bring this down to a financial point of view, the best way to cope with it is to prevent it.
Right, absolutely.
Right. We're in a semi-attempt to re-engineer society today, mm-hmm. which may or may not be successful. But you have studied this. You've studied human beings all your life. Mm-hmm. When you speak with two voices, yours and the Almighty. What can society do to prevent this?
Well, I think education is a huge part of it. If we had schools in New York as good as we had 50 years ago, I think we would be a long way to
agree with you there.
The solution.
On this show are a very big advocate of stronger public schools.
I also think we can do more in school and in church about teaching real family values and how
Core values.
yeah, but how hard it is really to know when you yourself maybe were not brought up in wonderful values.
You know, many things I did in my life, one of them is teach, and I did my teaching internship at Hunter College High School, and there were still members of the clergy, women there that teaching and not running it, but teaching maybe. And one of my first courses said the best desk is the kitchen table.
Absolutely.
We're missing a piece of that family structure now too.
So turn off the TV and sit down and talk to each other. But that's hard to do, and especially if you're late in the game and you want your teenage kids to sit at the table, they'll sit down and say, okay, now what? And then the ball's in your court. So it takes some learning about how you start a conversation and how you keep it going.
We don't have much time left, but along with working with the inmates and getting them to come back into society, do you work with the families too?
Oh, yes.
And is that kind of what you do? It's kind of a teachable moment?
Yes, it is. And it's a process of helping people discover the good stuff, so that instead of just what you learn in school today, the parents and older siblings are enough involved in the life of a kid that they can ask a more specific question and say, in effect, what did you do today that you feel good about doing?
Right. And it's a lot too, a very big heavy dose of teaching responsibility for your actions.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if they did get in a fight or some trouble, it'd be good for them to understand what piece of it was their responsibility.
And what they could have done to avoid it.
But they will only do that if they also know that they're being appreciated for the good stuff that they do.
Well, you know, I guess you're the right person to do God's work. Because I read about you in the New York Times, and I thought it was a wonderful program. Do you have followers like you doing the same kind of?
Oh yes, there are a lot of people.
So can people learn how to do some of this and volunteer if they want to?
Yeah, they can volunteer in the network program.
Okay, so you brought us this wonderful. I have to do it slowly now. Wonderful poster. Am I okay with the camera? Okay. Prison Transformations, the system, the people inside, and me. This is very worthwhile, and I certainly thank you for being on the show, Steve, and hope that folks will respond and that you get lots of very good volunteers to do the work you're doing.
Thank you.
Thanks for being on.
Pleasure.
I'm Judith West. You're watching Getting Your Money's Worth, and we have just talked to Steve Chinlund about helping folks that land in prison, coming back to society and giving back and maybe buying into the American dream. Thanks for watching.